Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the HOPA Port's first annual general meeting. I'm Larissa Fenn. I'm the Director of Public Affairs and Corporate Secretary for HOPA Ports, and I am just going to do a few technical details and notes about logistics before we get running. The first portion of this meeting is our formal annual general meeting. It should run about 20 minutes. Following that, therefore at about 4:50, 10 to 5, we'll move right into our report to the community, which is a presentation of the highlights of the year past, a look ahead, presented by our CEO, Ian Hamilton. We will be collecting questions throughout this meeting using the chat function. So look in your Zoom toolbar for the chat button. At the end of our CEO Ian's presentation, he will answer as many of those questions as time permits. If we don't get to all the questions, if you're on the phone or you're otherwise unable to use the chat function, or if you just prefer to send a direct question, you can email us at info@hopaports.ca. That's info@hopaports.ca. And we'll ask that if there are any media present that you connect through our communications team, and we'll arrange separately for a more in-depth chat. With that, I will turn it over to our board chair, Ann Waldez.
Thank you, Larissa. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's now 4:30. And I would like to call the 2019 Annual General Meeting of the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority to order. My name is Ann Waldez, and I'm the Chair of HOPA, and I will act as Chair of today's Annual General Meeting. We appreciate your virtual attendance, and this format is a first for us, and we'll appreciate your patience with that. We would much prefer to have an opportunity to meet with our port partners and stakeholders face-to-face, but like everyone, we're making the best of this situation. It's been an extraordinary year, and later in this meeting, our CEO will give a presentation, and he'll elaborate on how HOPA has been helping to keep the supply chains moving through the COVID-19 crisis, and thinking ahead to how to make a positive contribution to Canada's economic restart. I want to let you know that the first formal portion of today's meeting is expected to be brief, which will allow us to move on to an update on HOPA's activities, as well as time for questions. I'm joined today by my board colleagues, whom I'd like to introduce: Megan Davis, Vice Chair, David Bradley, Jim Howlett, and Keenan Lomas. I'm also joined by HOPA's senior management team: Ian Hamilton, President and CEO, Janet Knight, Executive Vice President, Bill Fitzgerald, Vice President Operations, Jeremy Dunn, Commercial Vice President, and Larissa Fenn, Director of Public Affairs and our Corporate Secretary. I'll now ask Ms. Fenn to read the public notice calling this meeting and to make a few remarks respecting the meeting's process and conduct. Larissa?
Thank you, Ann. Welcome, everyone. The Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority is a non-share capital corporation established under the Canada Marine Act and governed by letters patent issued by the Minister of Transport. Her Excellency, the Governor-General in Council, on recommendation of the Minister of Transport, appoints 5 of the 7 directors, along with a director appointed by the Province of Ontario and a director appointed jointly by the corporations of the City of Oshawa and the City of Hamilton. The directors in office are the only ones who may move, second, and vote on motions at today's meeting. The meeting today is called pursuant to sections 34 through 37 of the Canada Marine Act, and a notice of the meeting was published in the Hamilton Spectator, the Oshawa Express, Oshawa This Week, and Le Régional newspapers. Conduct of this meeting is voting by board members only and has been noted by the chair. For your reference, section 4.4 of the letters patent respecting quorum reads, the quorum necessary for the transaction of business at a meeting of the board shall be by a majority of the number of directors in office which the authority has actual knowledge of their appointment. And Madam Chair, I would note that we do have quorum here today.
Thank you, Larissa. Being that there is quorum of the directors present, I propose that we now proceed with the formal part of the business of the meeting. I now declare that this meeting is regularly called and properly constituted for the transaction of business. Copies of the minutes of the previous Hamilton Port Authority Annual General Meeting are available for review upon request. It's noted that in view of the amalgamation underway at that time, an annual general meeting of the Oshawa Port Authority for the year 2018 was not held. The board will now conduct the formal portion of this meeting by having directors moving, seconding, and voting on the necessary motions. I would ask for a motion from the board to dispense with the reading of the minutes from the previous annual general meeting.
Madam Chair, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes from the previous AGM.
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thanks, David and Jim. All those directors in favor of this motion, please raise your hand or say aye if you're on the phone.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. As required by Section 42(1)A of the Port Authority's Management Regulations, the firm of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP was appointed as the auditors of record for the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority prior to this annual general meeting. Please let the record show that the firm of PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP was appointed as the auditors of record for the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority by the board at its meeting held February 12, 2019, as required by Section 42(1)B and Section 42(3) of the Port Authority Management Regulations. Is there a motion to confirm the appointment of the auditors, please?
Yes, I move confirmation that PricewaterhouseCoopers LLP has been retained as auditors for the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority to hold office from the close of this annual general meeting until the close of the next annual general meeting.
Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Keenan. All those directors in favor of this motion, please either raise your hand or aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carried. The next item of business is the presentation of the corporation's audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2019. For the record, I note that a copy of the financial statements have been available for review on our website for the last 30 days and continue to be available for viewing. I'll now ask Ms. Janet Knight, Executive Vice President, to speak to the financial statements and to make some general remarks. Janet?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon. I'd like to first start off with mentioning that these are the first set of financial statements for the newly created Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority, or HOPA. A certificate of amalgamation was issued by the Ministry of Transport for the Hamilton Port Authority and the Oshawa Port Authority to amalgamate and continue as one entity. This transaction constituted a business combination under common control and resulted in a retrospective presentation of consolidated comparative balances as if both port authorities had always been combined. So I'll now go through the statements. The first section of the report includes the report of the auditor, PricewaterhouseCoopers, who, in their opinion, as set out in the first paragraph of the report, that the consolidated financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority and its subsidiary as at December 31st, 2019, and its financial performance and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with international financial reporting standards. The next section of the statements includes a consolidated statement of financial position. Next. And one more. There we go. The next section of the statements includes the consolidated statement of financial position, where December 31st, 2019 balances are viewed in comparison to 2018 figures. Current assets include cash and short-term investments that totaled almost 21 million, trade and other receivables, and other current assets. Non-current assets primarily represent the net book value of assets owned by the Port Authority that amounts to approximately 144 million, and greater detail can be found under Note 7. Current liabilities include trade payables, provisions, and other liabilities, while non-current liabilities include long-term employee benefit obligations. The year-over-year change in the equity section
reflects the total comprehensive income for 2019, which came in at 6.5. And as we move to the next page of the statements, we can see how this amount was generated. So the statement of operations and comprehensive income reflects the operating and non-operating revenue and expenses for the year. In 2019, revenue from operations was $31.6 million, net income was $7.5 million, and finally, total comprehensive income came in at $6.5 million. The next statement, the statement of changes in equity, highlights the movement in equity for the year, while the following statement, the statement of cash flows, provides the detail of how cash was generated and how it was utilized. In 2019, the operations generated $18 million, and as you can see, just over $14 million was used to fund various port developments. Cash reserves increased by $3.3 million over prior year, and a balance of $21 million remained in cash and short-term investments, which will be used to fund future port development activities. Following the statements are the note to the financial statements, which I won't go through, other than to point out that they contain the required disclosures under the Canada Marine Act and the Port Authority's management regulations. And I'll turn the meeting back to the chair.
Thanks very much, Janet. For the record, the audited financial statements for the year ending December 31st, 2019 were approved by the board at its February 26, 2019 meeting, as required by Section 40 of the Port Authority Management Regulations. Is there a motion to confirm the approval and adoption of the audited financial statements for the period ending December 31st, 2019?
Madam Chair, I move that the approval and adoption of the audited financial statements of the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority as at December 31st, 2019, approved and adopted at the board meeting held February 27th, 2019, be and the same are hereby confirmed.
Can I have a second, please?
Madam Chair, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Jim and Keenan. You've heard the motion, and if there's no further discussion, I shall ask all the directors in favor to raise their hand or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Does any director have any further or proper business to bring before this meeting?
No, ma'am.
There being none, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting, please?
Madam Chair, I move that the meeting should now be adjourned.
And I second that motion.
Thanks, Megan and Jim. All those directors in favor of this, please raise their hand or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, I declare this 17th annual general meeting of the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority adjourned. Thanks, everyone. And in closing, I'd like to commend the entire HAPA staff on behalf of the Board of Directors for their contributions over the course of the past year. Their accomplishments have been notable, absolutely. I'm now pleased to welcome Mr. Ian Hamilton, President and CEO of the Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority, to offer some remarks on what transpired in 2019 and what their plans are for 2020 and beyond. Ian?
Great, thank you, Ann, and thank you so much for everybody who's joined us today. Like many organizations, and as Ann mentioned, this is our first virtual AGM. I guess the only positive thing is that we've got a mute button, so there'll be no heckling today. This portion of the presentation should take about 20 to 25 minutes, and then if there are any questions come in, I'll be happy to respond to them in the end. This report to the community is something we've done in Hamilton for a few years, and now for both of our communities, Hamilton and Oshawa. We see it as an important part of our commitment to transparency and a great way for our communities to gain a better understanding of what we do as a port authority and who we are as an organization. Of course, it works much better when we can do this face-to-face, but we're making the best of it, and hopefully we'll be back in person meeting with you this time next year. Before we get started, I should say that this annual report is always a look back at the year prior, in this case 2019, but the world has changed so dramatically in the first part of 2020, we have to look at everything differently. I'll get into some of the more details later on in the presentation, but to summarize, Hope is managing through this crisis thanks to our network of partners. We're working with emergency services, Transport Canada, industry partners, and customers to ensure that we continue to provide the essential services our economy and supply chains and communities need, while keeping everybody safe. To these partners, I want to say thank you. Your dedication and professionalism is amazing. As an organization, our staff have been adapting to new ways of working. Those that can work from home, and those that must work on site have implemented rigorous new protocols to ensure health and safety. For me and for our people, as the scope and severity of the pandemic became clear, I don't think there was ever any question of what we would prioritize. One of our key values is safety above all else. It's simple, it's unequivocal, and it will continue to guide our actions in the days ahead as we ensure our essential supply chains keep functioning. And now to talk a little bit about 2019. The biggest news of the last year, of course, was the amalgamation of the ports of Hamilton and Oshawa, creating the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority, now known as HOPA. As a result of that decision of the Federal Minister of Transport, the union took place in June. And our staff has been working diligently since then to merge our organizations and everything from IT, business development, and engineering. And of course, we presented our first financial statements as a single entity today. And for many reasons, I think this new Port Authority and our two port cities are much stronger together. The development of an integrated port network and combining the assets is a fantastic first step. For the Port of Oshawa, this has meant getting some overdue attention to its infrastructure needs, ensuring the port has the capacity to reinvest, and having the technical capacity to get the work done. Essentially, we're making it a sustainable entity. And by growing the integrated port network between the two port cities, we're beginning to build a network to serve the Greater Golden Horseshoe. It is Canada's most populous region and most active economic zone. It just makes sense for this region to be served by an integrated network of marine transportation assets. Together, the ports of Hamilton and Oshawa include 760 acres of land, which is home to over 135 businesses. Approximately 10.5 million tons of cargo came through the ports in 2019 aboard approximately 700 vessels. We're a small but mighty team at HOPA of about 60 people and happen to report we've added several new staff in 2019, including some dedicated workers in Oshawa. We also have a material regional impact as a combined entity. The cargo that comes through our ports is connected to over 40,000 jobs in Ontario. That means in factories, on construction sites, and on farms, the work they do relies on the products we deliver. The cargo carried through the two ports is valued at over $3 billion. We support some of Ontario's most productive sectors: steelmaking, construction, agriculture, food processing, and manufacturing. And as Janet talked about and delivered earlier with our detailed financial statements, we're a very, very successful organization, and we will continue on a strong financial footing. Our operating income in 2019 before depreciation was over $15 million. All of our income is reinvested into our port and port communities, and I'll get to some of the highlights of those investments later in the presentation. 2019 was a pretty average year for vessel traffic. Grain production was solid, but not the bumper crop of 2018. Steel movement also returned to somewhat normal levels compared to the erratic responses to the tariff situation that occurred in 2018. But as I mentioned, overall, we carried over 10 million tons of cargo. Key to our success has been our continual investment by both ourselves and our tenants in our infrastructure. And one of the exciting developments this year included the opening of the new grain terminal in Oshawa by partners SOLLIO Agricultural and QSL. It didn't have a full season in 2019, but is off to a great start, providing an important new option for Durham and area farmers to deliver their grain to a port close to home, rather than having to truck it either across the GTA or all the way to Quebec. Some of the other customer highlights in infrastructure investment this year include an expansion of the Sucrican sugar refinery in Hamilton to begin producing granular sugar, a doubling of capacity at the Parrish and Heimbecker flour mill, and we welcomed the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the Forge Football Club to a beautifully renovated space at 500 Sherman. We love having you there, but we can't wait to see you on the field again. And congrats, most importantly, on being chosen to host the 2021 Grey Cup. One of the key projects I've been working on is the Westport redevelopment. The Westport Modernization Program is a $35.5 million infrastructure investment, 50% funded by the National Trade Corridor Fund and the other 50% by the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority. It's aimed at modernizing one of the oldest areas of the Port of Hamilton. Engineering and construction work was well underway in 2019 on this project that will improve transportation connectivity for our port partners. With exciting new announcements by Fluke Transport and Federal Marine Terminals, the project is already delivering on its goal of attracting $80 million in new private sector investment to port lands. The pace of this project has slowed down a bit with the suspension of some of the construction work, but it is exactly the kind of economy-boosting infrastructure activity that we're going to need to get back to full steam once we're ready and able. Pier 10 was also home of an agri-food cluster, and we're pleased in 2019 to announce the $60 million investment in infrastructure at Pier 10 to facilitate that agri-food cluster. This will support dredging, dock wall work, and cargo storage space for our many agri-food customers that call that pier home. It will also help us to organize the space and commodity flows more sensibly so that as many as 4,000 truck trips a year are eliminated from Burlington Street. With the amalgamation also comes the opportunities of the port network. Because 2019 was such a year of transformation, we had a lot of reason to reflect on not just what we do or how, but why it is important not just for us, but to our broader set of customers and stakeholders. And it starts with our region, Southern Ontario, and its near crippling congestion. The Greater Golden Horseshoe is Canada's most populous region. It is the heartland of the manufacturing and other key sectors, and it is some of the worst congestion in all of North America. And there are various hotspots in the area highways. And yet, our marine transportation system has capacity and can help be part of the solution to moving more goods and people more efficiently. In order to accomplish this, we need to start seeing more value in the marine assets in this region and using them in smarter ways. We have the ability to help Ontario solve some of its transportation challenges. The goal of an integrated port network is to better use Ontario's industrial capacity and the surplus capacity of the province's marine transportation system. Hope of Ports is working with Transport Canada to be the multimodal transportation data hub for the Greater Golden Horseshoe. With that, it'll give us a better understanding of commodity movements across the region, and is the first step in using marine capacity to help fight road congestion and achieve CO2 reductions. Closer to home, better tracking of truck movements to and from port lands will help us reduce turnaround times, improve air quality, and encourage routings that are acceptable to port users and the community. As we grow, it is essential for us to do so in a sustainable way. We are guided by a commitment to social, economic, and environmental sustainability in all of our operations. We are pleased to be releasing our third annual sustainability report today. You can download the report from our website. It is a great snapshot of all the things that we're doing and working on to make our communities proud to be port cities. We have and today I just have a few highlights I want to share with you. We are guided by a goal in Hamilton and Oshawa that our communities should be proud to be port cities. Both Hamilton and Oshawa have been harbor towns for more than a century. We are stewards of that tradition, and these are some of the steps we are taking to build awareness and pride. In part, we build awareness by giving people a look behind the gates and a better understanding of the role the port plays and the economic life that it generates in our communities. One way we do this is by hosting tours and open houses. Unfortunately, this will be a lot more difficult this year, but we're looking for other ways to support through physical distancing to support better visibility and what's going on behind the gates. For example, narrated drone tours to give people an inside look at day-to-day life in the port cities. In 2019, we did conduct a number of tours and very successful boat trips on the Harbor Queen, which were very well attended. One of the other projects that is very important to us is the Fisherman's Pier. We're working to improve the infrastructure between port and city by creating spaces where people can go to enjoy the waterfront while at the same time safely viewing the ships coming and going from the port. In Hamilton, our flagship project is the redevelopment of Fisherman's Pier. In 2019, we conducted an extensive consultation process, receiving more than 650 public responses to our call for ideas of how to improve the Fisherman's Pier zone to make it a more welcome place on the harbor. And we're grateful for all of your correspondence and all of your suggestions. We're just getting ready to release the results of that consultation now, which will allow us to move on to the next step in the redevelopment. Another key project that was launched in 2019 was the land use plan in Oshawa. We are underway with the first steps necessary to develop a new land use plan for the Port of Oshawa. We needed to update all of the surveying and mapping as a first step, which has now been completed. We have launched a user survey within the agricultural community to understand their needs, and we'll be launching the community engagement process very, very soon. As I mentioned, it's very important for us, for our communities, to be proud to be port cities, and we see that this consultation process is essential to achieving that. Community well-being. Part of the part of caring for our communities is making direct connections with the people who live there and supporting what's important to them. We're just starting this work in Oshawa, but have made good strides so far. Last summer, we undertook a food drive in Hamilton and Oshawa under the banner, Fight Hunger This Summer. It allowed our employees and customers in both locations to work together to make a positive contribution. We were able to donate more than 800 pounds of food and other supplies to the Welcome Inn in Hamilton and Simcoe Hall Settlement House in Oshawa. Another area that we focus in on is the education and skills development for our future workers. We partner with our community on building an educational bridge between our communities and the employment driving activity at the port. We do this through partnerships with educational institutions and community agencies and making connections with companies at the port that need skilled employees. It's a win-win, and we are immensely grateful for our partners like Mohawk College, McMaster University, and Brock University. We're also very excited about forging new connections with Durham College and Ontario Tech, and we look forward to seeing those develop in 2020. We gave over $250,000 in 2019, and the number of agencies and charities we work with each year grows. And I'd encourage you all to read more about them in the sustainability report. You can see a list there. The other key pillar is the economic prosperity we bring to the regions. One of the pillars of sustainability is to ensure, as an organization, we are financially strong and able to reinvest in our port communities. In both Hamilton and Oshawa, the port contributes via direct employment, the employment associated with the cargo we carry, and providing efficient transportation services so Canadians can get their products to the world. And as I mentioned, there's over 30,000 jobs connected to the cargo we handle through the ports. Everything we generate from our shipping and real estate activities, we reinvest. This is usually between $10 to $12 million per year. But recently we've been very successful in attracting investment from senior levels of government, which means we will be investing over $75 million into Hamilton and Oshawa infrastructure over the next 3 years. Here's just some of the few projects we completed in 2019, and you can have a closer look at these again in our sustainability report online. And we've got more to come. Many thanks to our very, very busy engineering team for executing on all these projects. As we deliver on our mandate to facilitate trade, we do so as responsible stewards of the water, land, and air. One of the key example of that is our participation in Green Marine. Green Marine Industry Environmental Program provides a framework for our environmental actions. Participants in this program benchmark their annual performance, have their results accredited by external verifiers, and publish these results. At the Port of Hamilton, our efforts have translated into steady progress year after year, as you can see from the graph. In Oshawa, there's work to do. The Port had left the program in 2018, but we're committed to rejoining the program this year and improving our performance to at least equal that of Hamilton's. Another area that we focus on is to protect the water quality and enhance the water quality. HOPA Ports is proud to contribute its expertise and $14 million in cash and in kind to the Randall Reef Sediment Remediation Project. In 2019, the $139 million project continued with the dredging of contained material from the material bed and placing it inside the engineered containment facility. 2020, unfortunately, we're going to be delayed as a result of the 2020 the coronavirus, but we will continue with the work. One of the biggest things that we heard through our engagement with the community in Hamilton was a concern over dust. And we're taking steps to reduce the offsite impacts of dust from port lands and operations. In Hamilton, our maintenance team were able to hit the streets in the new street sweeper last year. That will reduce the amount of dust and dirt on port roads, which reduces the amount of dust that gets tracked onto the city streets. In partnership with our tenants, we have stepped up monitoring of bulk piles, ensuring they are covered when not being unloaded or being moved. And we're working on ways to reduce truck queuing and idling, including some very exciting data-driven projects to help manage trucks' interactions with the port and reducing the idle times. In biodiversity, one of the projects we committed to was the rehabilitation of Sherman Inlet, and that was completed in 2018. And now this protected natural space has started to flourish. The restoration of the shoreline completed in 2018, and since then nature has taken over, with plants, animals, birds, and bees making the increasingly wild space their home. The honeybee colony at Sherman Inlet expanded in 2019 to 22 hives, owned and cared for by beekeepers Humblebee. Protecting the second marsh in Oshawa. In Oshawa, one of the things we need to mention specifically, because we have heard loud and clear how important it is to people, is the ongoing protection of the second marsh. It should provide a good amount of comfort that the Hamilton-Oshawa Port Authority's new letters patent specifically establish a non-development buffer between the port land and the second marsh. As we get into the development of the new land use plan for the port, this buffer will help achieve a balance between industry and natural uses on Oshawa's waterfront. We're also very proud of the many green projects we undertook in 2019, including warehouse lighting retrofits, electric vehicle chargers, and solar and cogeneration initiatives. And again, you can read more about these in the sustainability report. We've also been committed to reducing waste. And one of the fun things we did, you can see in this photo, is the new C-bin floating trash can we installed at the Harbor West Marina to catch plastic and other debris in the water. Most important, I want to say thanks to the team. This is the team behind all of the success and good stories I'm able to share with you today. They are truly our greatest strength and continue to do amazing work and make responsible decisions every day. The situation we're all in together as a result of the pandemic has been an incredible test of resilience. Canadians as people who have proven themselves by their ability to make sacrifices and do the right thing by their fellow citizens. Our healthcare systems, first responders, frontline workers in food service and elsewhere, and those caring for the ill and elderly in our communities are all giving us reason to be confident and proud. We're also very proud of our colleagues in the transportation sector who are working hard to deliver the goods we need. Previously practically invisible, the role of supply chains and logistics in our communities has become a much better understood entity. We have implemented new protocols to keep port workers and port communities safe, but at the same time, we are committed to keeping goods and the economy moving. We're proud of the fact that we still grow and make things in Canada. In both Oshawa and in Hamilton, we're proud of the role we play in getting those goods to market. We're ready to do our part to help get Canada's economy back on track very soon. We have identified a set of shovel-ready, trade-enabling infrastructure projects to support the agricultural, manufacturing, and construction sectors. We're talking to our partners at Transport Canada about how we at HOPA can make ourselves most useful for Canada and our fellow Canadians in helping to get Canada back to work when the time comes. We're looking forward to a Canada that emerges from this as strong and economically vibrant as possible, including a more efficient transportation network in the greater Golden Horseshoe. We'll be there to support a Canada that manufactures goods and grows food. We look for ways to better use marine to help solve road congestion on Ontario's highways and reduce the transportation carbon footprint. Thank you very much for concludes my presentation. And if there are any questions, I'll try to answer them now.
Yes, Ian, we've had some questions come in. You mentioned, so there's one that says you mentioned the need for infrastructure in Oshawa. Can you describe some of those needs?
Yeah, there's a number of infrastructure needs. Some of the real critical items are a repair of the dock walls and dredging to ensure that the safe navigation of ships in and out. Another area is going to be around a lot more paving to reduce the dust and improve the storage areas for goods. We'll improve the security elements in Oshawa as well, to name but a few.
And another one that someone has asked about the timing of the land use plan for Oshawa.
We're working on a straw man map right now, which will identify some of the best and highest and best use for the property that then we can put out to the community and receive community feedback. And we're hoping to launch that process in June, July of this year. And that process generally takes 3 to 4 months to accumulate all of the feedback, and then with that we'll tweak our design as we see appropriate, and come up with a land use plan that's really got the participation of the community, and is something that both the port and the community can share together.
That's all.
Okay. Well, thank you very much to everyone for joining us. And I wish you all all safety.
Thank you.